Okay. Hello. Welcome to episode one of Building WunderGraph with the founding team, Stefan, Jens, Dustin, and yours truly. Hi there. Greetings. So, as part of this series, we would like to show you what it's like to build WunderGraph as a startup, and especially a startup like WunderGraph, which is like 100% remote and venturing into a fairly new market. And the story all starts with Jens, I think. So this is a conversational recording. We always do it uncut and edited, and we try to be as frank as possible under these circumstances. So you can take some things away, maybe for your own startup, your own ideas, and maybe some advice on the pitfalls to avoid, or maybe some cool stuff to try. So it all started with Jens, back a couple of years back, I think.
Yeah, I don't like, the past is getting fuzzy very easily. I was working at Tyke as a technical director, and I started this as a side project. They allowed me to work on that. I had permission to do so. So I built some open source stuff on the side. And for a very long time, it was really just me, and nobody really cared so much. And eventually, and I think it was in December 2000. Oh my God, I don't want to mess it up. What was it? 2021? Was it?
December?
Yeah, December 2021, right? No?
Depends on what you'd like to say.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
December 2021, I found the first enterprise customer who actually was interested in using WunderGraph, right?
December 2020.
December 2020. Okay, you see, it's getting fuzzy, and that's kind of kicked all kinds of balls rolling. And I think in 2020, somewhere in the middle, I was very, very desperate for help, and I didn't want to There were multiple times where I actually wanted to give up the project because, I had my full-time job. I had a really great team at Tyke. I really loved those people. Then we also had our second child. So Yannick back then was 2. Leonie was just born, and it was all overwhelming me. And because I didn't initially get the traction I wanted, I just wanted to give up. But somehow I was looking for straws to keep this project alive, and I was joining Y Combinator co-founder match, and I was looking there for some matches, and there were like a couple of meetings were initiated, and you chat with people, but nobody was really like so super interested in WunderGraph except one person. That was Stefan. He can tell from his perspective. And on the engineering side, through some open source project, I found Dustin. I think Dustin built something like I think it was an open source GraphQL registry or something. And you also had like a GraphQL edge cache that was working on Cloudflare workers.
Yes.
And somehow I figured how to contact you, and we spoke, and then we made a decision that we want to work together. And 1 week later, I fired you. You have to understand. I was at that time I was so desperate, and I met so many people, and I was so disappointed that everybody talks like, yeah, I want 50% of the company, I want this much equity, I want this and that, and then you ask people to do something, and they actually do nothing. And in the first week of Dustin, of working together with Dustin, I just think he simply didn't have enough time to shift his whole life just for me.
Yeah, I mean, I had a full-time job as well, right? So I could
Yeah.
only work on the weekends, and
But
yeah.
Jens, you were working at night. Like you told me you got up like super early in the morning, then did some work for WunderGraph, then did your day job, which also demanded like 100% of your attention, and then you kind of spent the other 100% afterwards, after taking
Yeah.
care of kids, family, and everything.
Luckily, my wife was very, how do you say, like super supportive. Like I was allowed to work on the weekends. I worked on the weekends a lot. It's super weird when you have kids, and it's normal for your wife that on the weekend, during the day, like there's a phase in the middle of the day where the kids sleep, and you actually go to work on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. That's not a healthy family life, but that was how it was the only way WunderGraph could have been built. Like sometimes you have to make decisions. Nowadays, since we are a real team, I stopped working on the weekend. Actually, like not 100%. I'm always looking into Slack or something, but it's now a lot healthier. And with that, I would love to hear the stories of Stefan and Dustin.
What do you think? What did you think when Jens first approached you? Or was it
Uh,
actually you reaching out to Jens, Stefan?
no. So I was working at a startup. I just got a job as like a software engineer, and it was a like a Series B startup.
You were a
And
software engineer? Or just kidding? Okay, go on.
yeah. That's a reoccurring joke at WonderGraph that I was a software engineer. But yeah, so it was a post Series B startup, and I was working for them. And I always wanted to do something of my own, like a cool startup, but I couldn't come up with an idea. But I wanted something I can go just full on in and work with, and just create something cool from the ground up. And like Jens, I signed up for Y Combinator, find a co-founder. And my first 5, 6 matches were all weird or like scams. I met some weird guy in a coffee shop in Miami that tried to get me into like a cult. So I was like, okay, maybe this is a weird website. But then the second one was a message, or like one of the sixth one was a message from Jens. And I actually put in my little listing, I'm looking for a technical genius. And Jens DM me and he goes, hey, I'm the technical genius. What's up? And so I started talking to Jens, and like he said up front, I was like, okay, like, can we get this equity? And then when it came down to the work, I had a full time job as well. I just started my career as an engineer, and I wasn't giving 100%. And so then me and Jens had a conversation, and he's like, hey, listen, if you really want to do this, you got to go all in. And for something like, I don't know, flipped inside me, and from that moment on, I just dwelled right into it. So I was doing like 40 hours at my job, and then I was doing 40 hours at WonderGraph. And just like Jens, like I live with my girlfriend, but I don't have children, so it's a lot easier for me. But like I was able to wake up like early, and from like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I was working on WonderGraph, and then sometimes during my lunch break I would work on WonderGraph during my job, and then I stopped like going out, and I would just start working on WonderGraph at night. And it, it it's very helpful to have a supportive girlfriend, so she was very supportive during it all. But at that time I was working 2 jobs, almost 80 hours a week, which at the end was completely worth it. I would do it again anytime. And now I thought, that we're full time, I would be working less. It's actually double now, but it's more fun because I get to hang with everybody, and this is something that actually went from the ground up, and we're just getting started.
But I think it's also cool if you're younger, you can deal with extra workload and maybe you're working at night or getting up early. When you have kids,
Totally.
I mean, you're forced to get up early, but you're really screwed in the evenings. It's so when I was your age, when I was your age, I didn't have any issues working late and getting up early. But I can tell you, once you cross the threshold of 40 or 3 kids, whatever comes first, um, there's no such thing anymore as keeping the energy level for the entire day. It's simply not possible. But I mean, Dustin, also you don't have any kids yet, so you do have, and you're like, so you're the machine, right? I've hardly seen anyone, maybe besides Jens, who's been working so hard on WunderGraph, and at times I would think, you should either be in bed or with your girlfriend or a combination of both, or in the gym or something. But you're still working.
Yeah,
How did you how did you manage in the beginning?
I think in life you have only one or two such opportunities where you can bootstrap a company, you seed money, you have the chance to work with the right people and working on something huge and something you're really interested in and passionate about it. And yeah, that's why I'm so why I'm so on it. So why I so invest so much in it. And yeah, how I do it. I mean, it's only a matter of time, right? Until I'm burnt out. No,
Which is something
I
we don't
think
want.
yeah, I think you have to find a good middle way. So yeah,
What did you think of Jens when you first met him, and after he tried to fire you, and then kind of came groveling back, asking you to still keep on working on WunderGraph? What did you think? Did you think it would actually evolve into a startup like we have today?
no, but yeah, the funny thing is I did understood his view on it. So I think he already also burned out, and he wanted to kick something great, right? And that's
Yeah.
if you can't find the right people, but you are full of energy and you cannot put it in the right direction, it's embarrassing. And yeah, and I go into myself and thought about it, like, come, give him another chance to explain himself, and let's rock it together. And and it's very hard to build a relationship remotely with people you don't know, you have never seen in real life, and you have to give them extra bonus trust. And
Yeah. I remember when it was about quitting our jobs, and I had to guarantee you that we would be able to pay you a salary. And you were telling me like, "Hey, I haven't met you. I'm not sure if I can trust you." And I was like, "That's going to be a lot of work to make a team out of this." But
yes,
I really like how it turned out, and I hope I'm trustworthy now.
Yeah, maybe that's another point I missed in the beginning. The last founder to join was Björn, but it was actually the first I met, at least in life. Maybe Björn, you quickly want to go over like how we met and how that evolved actually into your role at WunderGraph.
It's a good point. So we met back at t-online.de, which is Germany's biggest news portal, which was, I think, a challenging company in many ways, but also very, very teaching and very, let's say, formative in the terms that we found out what we wanted and what we didn't want to do. So I came on board as a CEO back then. I think it was late 2018. And Jens was heading a software department there, and was kind of the master brain behind a lot of new developments that were introduced in the software development part of T-Online. And I realized that Jens is really driven by a vision or something that he thinks is something to empower people and allow them to do new stuff. And also, what I liked about you was you were identifying all the problems that we had and came up with solutions that were just, I think, a couple of steps beyond what the team could do back at the time. So when we always stayed in touch and became friends out of that time, and I was always kind of following what we're doing with WunderGraph. So you told me about it, and I thought, well, sounds like an interesting idea. Yes, nice startup to build. Yes, API integrations and stuff. But I wasn't hooked at the time. But I was really positively surprised by how much energy and how much persistence you put into the project and what it turned into. And I remember the last time when we talked, I think it was at the end of 2020, when you told me like, yeah, you've got another developer on board now, and you've got someone for marketing and so on. I was like, holy crap, this is turning into a real company who was still being bootstrapped. And there was this first customer already in the pipeline. And it wasn't a
FOMO.
it wasn't a challenging time for me. And since I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I already failed with a startup at least once, I didn't see myself venturing back into that area again. Also because if you've got kids and a house and a dog and whatever, it's very hard to let go of this and also accept pay cuts, and that's a lot of risk. And you've kind of found a comfortable niche where you stayed in before. And after talking to my wife and having a family council on it, and Jens said, well, why don't you join us? It was not a long decision process. So actually, I think inside, at heart, I already made the call. It was more like the heart convincing the brain that it's the right thing to do. It's still risky, and it's still a challenge because of the lack of all the benefits and perks that we all gave up for the job. But I think it's super worth it. And the many episodes I hope will follow. The first one today will give you more insight into what happened, what we like about the company, what the challenges are, and why I haven't regretted this for a single moment ever since I decided to join. Also in the beginning as a side job, so I had my full day job, which was already like 60 hours a week, and then I tried to put in as much as I could for WunderGraph. But it feels so good to be finally part of the team. I think we all more or less joined in July 2021, and ever since then it has been a roller coaster ride in a positive way. Cool. I kind of get a couple of new ideas for episodes. For example, maybe we should do interviews with our partners who have who are also at least half responsible for the success that we're having. We couldn't do it without them. So maybe we should also dedicate some time to them. And also the experience that we made coming on board a startup with that extra workload that we had to take for a couple of months.
We should talk about how to raise money from a camper van.
Yeah, exactly. And how to work remotely.
Remotely.
We can invite Elko. He's very proficient.
Yeah, we have some professionals in that space.
Okay, so we're well over time for this episode. Thanks for your attention. Any questions, any comments, have a go. We're most happy to have a conversation going, and see you next episode. Thanks, guys.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.